to get started. And so here's what I want to talk to you about right now. I want to save you some grief. I want to save you the stress. If you're a person right now, you're in the pursuit of something. Maybe perhaps you're pursuing a dream, a goal, or maybe you're in the process of a big project, something that you're hoping to make accomplished. Maybe you've been trying to write a book. Maybe you've been trying to start a business. Maybe you're trying to wrap up a diploma, a degree. Maybe you're in the pursuit of getting your master's, and you're in the process of making this thing happen. And as you're going through this process, where you are right now is not quite the way that you thought it was going to be. In other words, the process is taking significantly longer than what you thought it was. In other words, what it means is that maybe perhaps you've gotten to a roadblock, you've gotten to an obstacle, you've hit a specific challenge, and you had no idea. When you sort of envision yourself in this process, when you saw yourself pursuing this goal, when you saw yourself pursuing this dream, you had no idea that you were going to pursue and that you're going to be in the process of stumbling across these stumbling blocks. You had no idea that it was going to be this difficult. You had no idea that some of the people who started off with you were no longer going to be with you in the process. And so if that's you right now, you're in the process of pursuing a goal, you're in the process of pursuing a dream, and you're looking at where you are right now, and it's not quite what you thought it would be, and you're at the process right now where you're actually considering throwing in the towel. Or maybe perhaps you are starting to lose a little bit of that vigor, a little bit of that fire that you have in you. This message is specifically for you. And what I want to tell you is this, that one of the things that you have to understand is that in the process of pursuing your goals and your dreams, that first of the thing that I need you to understand is that you've got to expect that there are going to be some detours. In other words, the route that you anticipated, the way that you thought that you were going to get from the beginning all the way to the finish line, it's not always going to look the way that you thought it was going to look. In other words, some things are going to show up, some things are going to pop off, some things are going to happen that you didn't necessarily anticipate. And when they do, I need you to go ahead and stay calm, not throw in the towel, not go ahead and give up, but I need you to start thinking about what is going to be your detour. In other words, I need you to go ahead and recalculate your route. You know, nowadays, all of us have these little fancy smartphones. And so most of us don't really rely on, like a third-party GPS device anymore. You know, back in the day, a lot of us used to get those Garmin GPS devices. But nowadays, if you're going someplace, you can go ahead and pull out your smartphone, go ahead and type in the actual route, the destination that you plan on going, and your cell phone will go ahead and get you there. But if you would go back with me back in the day when we first started getting those GPS devices, I remember I used to have a GPS device. It was a Garmin, pretty bulky. I used to put it on the dashboard of my car. And when I was headed someplace, I would go ahead and type in the destination. And in the process of driving there, every once in a while, I would make a bad turn. Every once in a while, when I was told to turn right, I would turn left. Or I would miss the exit. I was told to get off on exit 18, and maybe I forgot to get off on the right exit, and I had to get off on exit 19. Or maybe the GPS was instructing me to turn down a road, not knowing that there was construction taking place on that road, so I couldn't turn down that road, and I had to find another road to turn down. But the beautiful thing that I always loved about the GPS device, the beautiful thing that I always loved about the Garmin device, is regardless of the fact if I made a bad turn, regardless if there was a detour in the road, regardless if there was some construction in the road, regardless if I was lost and I made a couple of bad decisions, the one thing that I always loved about that GPS device is that no matter what, it would always just continue to recalculate. And so I'm telling you, there have been times that I've made literally 4, 5, 6 bad turns. And every single time I made a bad turn, all the GPS would say is just recalculating, recalculating, and I appreciated that about the GPS device because it was always fixated on the fact that it was just trying to get me to the destination. And so the GPS device was willing to recalculate the route as many times as necessary in order to get me to my destination. And so here's what I say to you. Here's what I need you to understand. That in the process of getting to the place that you're looking to get right now, understand this, that there are going to be many times that you need to go ahead and take a detour. There are going to be many times that you need to recalculate. And guess what? There are going to be many times that you make a bad decision and you get off on the wrong exit, or you make the wrong turn, or you allow the wrong person to come with you for the ride, if you know what I'm talking about, right? Some of you went ahead and started a destination with somebody by your side, and you thought that they were going to be with you throughout the entire process, but you had to go ahead and pull over and ask them to go ahead and exit the vehicle because of the fact that they were too negative, they were too toxic for the journey. But what I need you to understand is this, because I believe that too many of us, we give up prematurely on our goals and our dreams. We give up prematurely on the things that we're hoping to make happen because of the fact that we lose sight of the fact that we're going to have to recalculate. We lose sight of the fact that there's going to be some detours. We lose sight of the fact that we can expect some delays, that things are not necessarily going to happen in our timing. And so right now, here's what I want you to write down. Number one, I want you to understand this, that when you are in the process of going and pursuing your goals and your dreams, understand this, that there are going to be many times that you need to go ahead and recalculate. There are going to be many times that you need to take a detour. And once you accept that, you won't get so frustrated when the process doesn't necessarily look the way that you thought it was going to look. And so you thought that this degree was going to only take you 4 years, or you thought it was only going to take you 2 years. And so unfortunately, some things happened to you. And so you had to withdraw from school. And now here you are, you're in the 5th year, the 6th year, and you haven't completed the degree. And so maybe you're ready to throw in the towel. But what I want to remind you is this is the time that you say recalculating, you re-enroll, and you just finish whatever you have left. Maybe perhaps you thought at this point, at this stage in your life, that you would have already started the business. And you've been having a lot of great conversations about it. You've been doing some research, but yet and still, you're still working your regular job. You're still working your regular career. And what I'm trying to tell you is this: don't throw in the towel, just recalculate. Try to figure out how you're going to get there. What adjustments do you need to make? What's some things that you need to learn? Who are some new people that you need to put on your team? But whatever you do, do not throw in the towel just because the process, the route, the journey doesn't look exactly the way that you thought it was going to look. Some of you, as you're listening in right now, maybe perhaps you're a part of a direct sales company, right? And so you thought, you got excited, you went to the opportunity meeting, you got involved in this business. You thought for sure that as soon as you got into business that you're going to hit one of the top positions, that you were going to get your residual income, that you're going to be able to leave your job. And here you are 3 years later, and your residual check is looking really, really small, and you're still not making very much money in the business. But what I want to tell you is this is not time to throw in the towel. This is the time for you to go ahead and recalculate. Take a couple of detours. Figure out what is it that you've done up to this part that maybe perhaps you've got to change and alternate so that you can get to the outcome that you're looking to make happen. And so I need you to understand this. And the reason why I share this is because I hear too many stories of people who are in the process of going after their goals and their dreams, and then they stumble across a roadblock, or maybe perhaps it's not working out the way that they thought it would. And they're so fixated on the fact that the process is not the way that they thought it was going to be, that guess what they do? They throw in the towel prematurely. And so I even think about, when I first left corporate America, one of the areas that I got involved in, and some of you have heard me sort of share this, was real estate. And I remember my very first real estate transaction. It was actually overseas. Somebody talked to me about an amazing real estate opportunity in Costa Rica. And let me just tell you, to make a very, very long story short, as they say, and I hate using that expression, that I completely lost my shirt. You hear me on this? I'm talking about I lost all of my entire investment. And it was literally all that I had. I had just left corporate America. I took all of my savings. I invested in this opportunity in Costa Rica and lost everything. Now, I'm telling you, it was very, very easy for me at that moment to go ahead and throw in the towel, to run back to the security of my job with my previous company, to go ahead and just look at it as literally, you know what, I would never, ever, ever invest in real estate again. But let me tell you, as difficult as that situation was, I had to go ahead and learn how to recalculate. In other words, that painful event, and let me tell you, it was painful to lose that money. It was painful to know that I trusted this business partner of mine, and he misled me and actually took our money and did something else with it. It was painful for the fact that there are other people who are aware of the fact that I was doing this real estate investment, telling them how I had lost all my money. That process was very painful. But let me tell you, as a result of that process, I end up learning a completely different niche in real estate at the time. And I had to be creative because guess what? I was out of money. The savings that I had, I ran out of it. And so I got involved in a new niche in real estate that was known as real estate wholesaling. And it was a way to get involved with real estate without having a significant amount of money. And because of the fact that I learned that niche, I literally, during the process of a couple of years, made hundreds of thousands of dollars through the various real estate transactions that I was a part of. And so I share that with you to make you understand this, that when I first started off my journey of investing in real estate, I had a picture in my mind of what it looked like. And I tell you, the picture in my mind did not show me losing tens of thousands of dollars on my very first real estate transaction. The picture and the journey that I had in my mind did not show me having absolute failure on my first transaction. That's not what I thought the process was going to be like. No, I thought I was going to start investing in real estate. I thought I was going to just start making some money, but that's not how things worked out. Let me just tell you, let me help you to understand something. What happened is that because of the fact that I incurred that significant loss, and because of the fact that I didn't just judge the process, but I was willing to take a detour. I was willing to recalculate. I was willing to learn something new. I was willing to surround myself with some people that could pour into me and help me to learn some different aspects of the same thing that I was trying to make. I was able to get to the same outcome, but I just had to take a different route. And so I need you to understand this, that just because the route that you're on right now does not necessarily look like the route that you thought it was going to be, it doesn't mean that you can't still produce the same outcome. It doesn't mean that you can't still get the book written. It doesn't mean that you can't still get the business off the ground. It doesn't mean that you can't still get to the six figures. It does not mean that you can't still have a happy, fulfilling marriage or a happy, fulfilling relationship. It does not mean that you cannot still lose the weight once and once for all. It doesn't mean that you can't still get out of debt. All those things are possible. What I'm saying to you is there's a strong possibility that the way that you thought it was going to happen is not really the way that it's going to happen for you. And so if you could just learn to stop, I guess you would say, judging the process, but rather learn to trust the process and lean in and understand that there's going to be moments where you need to take detours, that there's going to be moments that you need to recalculate. And the other thing is that I need you to understand is that you've got to expect some delays. Listen, life is full of delays. Things that you thought that was going to take 1 year, sometimes take 5. Things that you thought were going to take 5 years, sometimes take 15 years, okay? Things that you thought that were going to happen next month don't happen until next year. Life is full of delays, but understand this, that sometimes even when you are delayed, you are right on time. Write that down. I want you to write this down. Sometimes, even when you are delayed, you are actually right on time. Let me tell you, my wife and I, one of the areas that we have a little bit of friction and we go back and forth is that I, a lot of times, am really adamant about trying to be on time. Now, my wife, on the other hand, she's a little more laid back. And her mindset is, listen, we're going to get there. No rush. Big deal. If we're just a couple minutes late, there's no big deal. And so oftentimes when we're heading to an event or we got someplace to go, sometimes we got a little bit of friction there because I want to be there on time. And she's like, hey, relax, Andy. Everything is going to be okay. All right. And so I remember one particular time we were headed out to a particular event. And so unfortunately, we had some delays. As some of you know, that we have a newborn now. And so there's some new things that need to take place. We need to pack, things not just for ourselves, where it's just the two of us and we can get out the door. We got to make sure that we got the diaper bag, got to make sure that we got formula, make sure we got diapers, make sure we got wet wipes, make sure that we have everything we need, a stroller, a change of clothes. I mean, all kinds of things that are taking place, right, that actually delay the process. And so I'm ready to get out the door, and my wife is still in the process of helping us get out the door. And let me just tell you, I'm getting frustrated because all I'm looking at is now we are 10 minutes late. Now we're 15 minutes late. We're 20 minutes late. Now we're at the point where we're almost like literally 30 minutes late. And so by the time we get in the car, I am frustrated. I'm agitated. Listen, I don't have many words to share at that time. I'm literally taking some deep breaths so I could just go ahead and relax. Right. And so here we are. I am like, have literally worked myself up. I've gotten so frustrated. I am so really upset about the fact that we're late, right? And then we get to the place that we're going only to realize that guess what? That just about everybody was delayed, and the person that was actually hosting the event was delayed. And so rather than us being late, guess what? We were actually right on time. And so sometimes, even when you feel as if you are delayed in the process of going after your goals and your dreams, even when you feel as if you're delayed when you're in the process of writing the book, or you're in the process of getting the degree, or you're in the process of trying to get something off the ground, even when you feel as if you're delayed, guess what? You are actually sometimes right on time. In other words, it ends up being perfect timing, because let's say you were supposed to get something done in the previous year, but you end up getting it done a year later. But in the year that you got it done, you had some new relationships that allowed you to leverage what you got done that you would not have been able to make happen in the previous year. And so what happens is, even though it's delayed, it's actually right on time, because of the fact that now you have new contacts, maybe you have new knowledge, maybe you have a new skill set, or you've got some right people around you that are going to help you to take things to an entirely different level. And so it's possible for you to be delayed and yet and still be right on time. And so don't allow yourself to get frustrated like I do a lot of times. Don't allow yourself to get worked up, okay? Understand this, that there are going to be times that when you're going after your goals and your dreams, that some things are going to happen that you didn't quite anticipate, but yet and still, many of those things were really just preparing you for where it is that you're intending to go. And so I just need you to know, because I know there's far too many people right now, you're frustrated. And the reason why you're frustrated is because you're constantly judging the process, because you had a picture in your mind of what it was going to look like. And as you're going through this process right now, you have found that this journey that you're on does not quite look the way that you thought it was going to look. And so if you could just let go of what you thought it was going to be in your mind, and just be willing to trust the process and put one foot in front of the other and just keep pushing forward, because that's the key. Let me tell you, listen, you don't fail because of the fact that it took you longer. You don't fail because of the fact that you have to take a detour. You don't fail because of the fact that you have to recalculate. You don't fail because of the fact that you have to take a different approach. You don't fail because you have to change the game plan. That's not how you fail. The way that you end up failing is because of the fact that you decide to throw in the towel, and you decide to go ahead and forfeit your destiny and forfeit your goals and your dreams because things didn't quite look or turn out the way that you thought it was going to look, right? And so most of us, if we look back at our lives, there's a lot of accomplishments that we've had. There's a lot of things that have happened in our lives that didn't just quite happen the way that we thought it was going to happen. Listen, I always had a desire to maybe get into a magazine publication. But the first time that I made it into a magazine publication, it didn't quite happen the way that I thought it was going to happen. I always had a desire to speak in front of thousands of people. But the first time that I spoke in front of thousands of people, the process, the journey to get to that point looked nothing like what I thought it was going to look like, right? I always envisioned myself eventually, getting married and eventually having a family. But my journey of meeting my wife and our journey of eventually starting a business was not exactly the way that I thought it was going to be when I first had this vision in my mind. And so what I need you to understand is that there's a lot of things that you have or that you're hoping to make happen that aren't necessarily going to look the way that you thought it was going to look. But if you're willing to just stick through, if you're willing to just keep pushing through the process, then what happens is amazing things happen towards the end. I'll never forget this. I got a good friend of mine. He actually started a business. And the reason why he started a business is because he felt as if he found the perfect business partners. And so all three of them brought something different to the table. And so they started off with a technology hardware company. And so their first year, they did about $300,000 in sale. By the second year, they had gotten to about $500,000 in sale. And then unfortunately, 2008 hit and the economy tanked. And now, once the economy tanked, many of their customers and their clients were no longer purchasing some of the servers and the things that they were actually selling. When the economy tanked, unfortunately, guess what happened? Many of the clients that they had that they were anticipating that were renewing some of their orders decided they weren't going to renew their orders. And now they found themselves in a situation where they went from having a multiple six-figure business to now they found themselves in a situation where now they had back orders from customers that unfortunately were actually not back orders, but they were actually asking for refunds. They were losing major accounts, and now they had expenses were actually exceeding their revenue, and now they found themselves in a situation where they were literally bankrupt. And so I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine, and he said, Andy, man, he said, at that time, it seemed like the absolute worst thing, man. And he said, to make things even worse, when the company had literally gone into bankruptcy, he said, both of my business partners decided to exit and leave the company, and they left me with literally $200,000 worth of debt. And he said, Andy, man, he says, when I was sitting there and looking back at this experience and this business that we started, he said, I had come to the realization and I had come to the place where I thought, you know what, this is it, man. It's over. And he said the reason why he thought it was over is because he always thought in his mind that the only way that that business could have success is if he had those two business partners with him. And then he had this epiphany. Once they decide to exit, is he said, you know what, maybe it wasn't meant for me to have those two business partners. Maybe all of this happened so that I could go ahead and start this business over again, but this time be the only person who's running and operating this business, and I be the CEO of the business and not have to run things by both of my business partners and not have to be I'm constantly trying to fight for what I think is the right direction for the company. And so he said, Andy, man, he says, I just had this epiphany. It was almost like I decided to recalculate. It's like I had this moment where I decided to take a detour. And so I stopped thinking that it was the end of the company. And rather, I looked at it as this was the moment for a resurrection of the company. And he said, man, I got back out there and I started hustling. And he said, but now this time, I wasn't just hustling because I was part of a company that had two other business partners, but he says that now I was 100% owner of the company. And he said, man, Andy, you won't believe it, man. Within the first 2 years, I was able to pay off the debt that I had accumulated from that I was left with my two business partners that left me. He said, literally, man, he said, within the next 5 years, he said, I took the business beyond where we were at. I grew the business into a 7-figure business. And he says, man, as I look back at the journey, as I look back at the process, he said, the best thing that could have happened was the fact that the business completely fell apart and my business partners decided to exit, because that literally allowed me to step into truly being a CEO. That literally was the changing point. That was the moment that everything shifted in my business. And he said, Andy, listen, man, he said, that was the moment that I decided to take a detour. That was the moment that I accepted the fact that what I had in my mind was not exactly the way that things were going to work out. And he said, man, I am so grateful that I stuck to the process. And so I don't know where you are right now in your process. I don't know what it is that you're pursuing right now. But what I want to remind you is that it is not always going to look the way that you anticipate it to look. That this journey that you're on, it's not always going to be the way that you thought it was going to be. And if you could just remember that GPS analogy, if you could just always be willing to just recalculate, if you're willing to take the detour, if you're willing to stop judging the process, but just simply trust the process, trust and believe that, guess what? Eventually, you're going to get there. And so you've got to expect some delays, expect the fact that you're going to have some detours, expect the fact that you're going to have to take some alternate routes. But if you're willing to just keep pushing forward, if you don't judge the process, you will, in fact, get there. And let me tell you, when you do, when you get to that level that you've been hoping to get to, you're going to look back and you're going to say, man, you know what? It's been completely worth it. And at that moment, guess what? The journey doesn't end there. You're going to set your sights on something else, and there'll be someplace else that you want to continue to go. And so hopefully I saved you a little bit of frustration today. If you've been getting a little frustrated and really starting to judge the process and thinking about throwing in the towel, I'm hoping that I got you to just sort of shift your perspective a little bit. The great late Wayne Dyer said that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so just a little shifting your perspective where you stop judging the process and you're willing to commit to the process and you're willing to take detours and you're willing to shift your routes. Just doing those little shifts right there can completely change things for you. I mean, we're talking about complete game-changing experience for you. And so I am hoping that whatever it is that you're pursuing right now, that you will absolutely stick to it, that you will not throw in the towel. And I'm looking forward to hearing about your journey and how you got there. And let me just tell you, this wouldn't be Andy Henriquez if I didn't end by telling you this. Listen, show up for your lives, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you don't show up, if you're not willing to stick to the process, if you're not willing to take detours and take alternate routes, then guess what? When it comes to your life, when it comes to your goals, and when it comes to your dreams, if you're not willing to show up, guess what? Nobody else will. And let me just tell you, I am so grateful. I thank all of you for being part of the Thursday night Show Up for Your Life Motivational Movement, live stream and conference call. And of course, like always, I thank Louis Morier, who is actually in Mexico right now, hosting the Thursday night Show Up for Your Life Motivational call. And so before we open up the conference call lines, I want to say a couple of things. Number one, if you haven't already done so, I want you to get a copy of my book. The title of my book is called Show Up for Your Life. And the subtitle is, listen, 7 principles to go from ordinary to extraordinary. And so in my book, I share some very, very powerful principles that are designed to equip you to go from a place of just simply living an ordinary life to get into that place where you're going to live a truly extraordinary life, to putting yourself in your power position, as I like to call it, to living a life of purpose and not just simply going through the motions. And so you get a copy of my book at Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, or you can even head over to ShowUpForYourLifeBook.com, ShowUpForYourLifeBook.com. Any one of those places. Most important thing, I want you to get a copy of the book and make sure that you actually read the book. The other thing is, I know there are many of you out there that you are entrepreneurs, or maybe you are speakers and you're coaches. And one of the things that you have realized is that in order for you to grow your brand, in order for you to better connect with your customers and your clients, in order for you to attract the right kind of people to your business, you really need to get stronger at delivering your message. And so I want to invite you for a very special opportunity to join me on June 9th and June 10th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for a 2-day hands-on workshop style Master Storyteller Academy. This is an extraordinary transformational event where you're going to come in there, maybe perhaps not being quite clear on exactly what your message is, not clear on what your story is, to getting an extreme makeover done on what your story is, on what your message, to equip you, if you're an entrepreneur, to be able to share a strong message, a strong story that will literally attract to you more paying customers and clients. If you are a speaker and a coach, to be able to strengthen your message so that you can have greater impact and so that you can produce the type of results that you really, truly want in your business. And so that you can be so much more relatable when you're looking to connect with your customers and your clients. And so once again, I want to invite you to join me on June 9th and June 10th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the Master Storyteller Academy. And you can apply for the Master Storyteller Academy by going to masterstorytelleracademy.com. Once again, you're going to go to masterstorytelleracademy.com. Listen, this is a small, intimate, 2-day all-in event, and it's limited to a very small group of people. And so if you are serious about taking your business to the next level, taking your message to the next level, if this is the year for you to up your game, then listen, you want to head over there right now to Master Storyteller Academy. You want to head over there right now, Master Storyteller Academy, and fill out the very quick application. And one of my team members will reach out to you. As a matter of fact, you can go ahead and book yourself. Also, you'll get an opportunity to book yourself immediately for a quick phone call from myself or one of my team members that will go ahead and give you the details so that you can go ahead and be able to reserve your seat and join us on June 9th and June 10th. And once again, like always, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open up the conference call lines. to allow some of you to go ahead and give us some comments or feedback. But here's something I want to share with those of you who are listening in right now via the conference call line. Now, when I'm delivering these talks, there's two things that are going on. There's a live stream that is taking place, so people are watching via live stream. And those people who are watching live stream, unfortunately, I don't have the ability to interact with them. But those of you who are listening in right now via the conference call line, the sole purpose, the sole reason why we actually open up the lines is to get an opportunity to actually hear from you. And let me just tell you,